is considered to be fairly impossible, and that is to discuss issues that affect the Black and Hispanic community more emotionally than anything else, and that is the problems that we deem that we have with each other. I'm going to ask my friend Alfredo Duran to join me with this discussion and ask him if he would have just a few remarks so that we can enter into this discussion. Alfredo?
There is a need for people such as ourselves to start talking about our common problems. There is a need that we get together all over this country in different towns, Mexicans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Blacks, and every individual which is disenfranchised in this society of ours. And that we sit down and by the very nature of the meeting, the mere fact that Blacks and Hispanics are sitting together in one room, hearing each other, listening to what each other has to say, and all of a sudden becoming aware that we have the same problems. And the only way that we're going to get to solve those same problems is if we act together for the common good. We are only, through this process, trying to be a catalyst for those thoughts and bringing to the public eye that the Hispanics and the Blacks will not be at each other's throat, that the Hispanics and the Blacks will not permit that they be put in a position of challenging one another, that the Hispanics and the Blacks are beginning to understand the system, that the Hispanics and the Blacks are becoming sophisticated in politics and economics and in social reforms, that the Hispanics and the Blacks have come and will come into their own in spite of everything. That is why I believe that the coalition will work, and that is why I participate in this movement, which I think that after the initial steps, after this first town meeting, I think that the other town meetings that we're going to be having throughout the country are going to be a historical means of people making their concerns be known.
If you have some very strong feelings about this matter one way or another, we would appreciate your delivering those strong feelings. We came here to put ourselves on the firing line and for you to challenge us as to what it is we're all about. Yes.
Much of what happens in the Latino community now is designed just for them. And when we work with them, we can't get them to come and work with us. Now, genuine reciprocity is going to have to be the order of the day. We can forget about this kind of notion. I've gotten burnt 4 or 5 times, and I'm just at a point where they're going to have to understand what their investment in the total thing is when it concerns us. Because I see this as the biggest problem. A lot of people are afraid to talk about it because they have federal monies. And many of the Latinos who are in charge of the regional offices have gone to Latino programs rather than minority programs. Many of the HUD or HEW and these kinds of places, all 15, 20 agencies in the Southwest are headed by Chicanos. And Blacks are catching hell as a result of it. So we're going to have to look at it eyeball to eyeball, and I hope that we can work out a meaningful coalition.
19 members of the United States Congress are Black and Hispanic, okay? That, in a way, is a significant block of people. Now, we have to pool our resources in that block, in those halls, in order that we can go out and work amongst those other people to convince them that our cause is right. That's the only way we're going to do it. Nobody else cares about our plight, okay? And I'd like to leave.
Mr. Marshall first broached the one of divisiveness between Blacks and Hispanics. This is not a new idea. Even during the civil rights movements back in the 60s, there were murmurings of Blacks and Hispanics joining forces. But then there are a lot of blacks who still feel deep emotion because we felt then, like we do now, that they did not then join forces with us, that they later rode the crest of our efforts. And if we are now going to have a coalition, then I feel like they need to realize that brown is a lot closer to black. It's nowhere near white. Not in the sense of color, but in the sense of our circumstances. Whether we're from the ghetto or the barrier, it's the same thing. There's no difference. We all know what poverty is, what police brutality is. We all know what it feels like to be walked on. We have to really join forces. They have to decide now that they want to be with us, that they no longer want to be white. Our bourgeoisie blacks have to realize that they all came from the ghetto. Not just, I know Mr. Reyes, all the rest of them, they came from the barrier. We're not dumb. I came from the ghetto. We all have to join forces. Now, we can't get bourgeoisie, I don't know where that is, it's not white and it's not black, I don't know what that is. You have to know now that we are one because of our circumstances and that we have to be one all the way. We can't get a certain point and then join with the white forces. It doesn't work because there'll always be that black and Hispanic minority. And also, Mickey Leland, you wanted to know if we thought you were damn fools for trying this. No, I don't think that you're damn fools for trying to form a black and Hispanic coalition, but you are damn fools, all of you, if you think that we'll stand here and talk this and tell you what we want, and you don't go back to Washington and relate to Mr. Carter what we said. You have access to him, and we want you to tell him. Now, I feel like you'll tell him, Mickey, because I remember you from the days of the pit. And I know Perry Marsh will tell him, but I want you to tell Mr. Dellums and Mr. Conyers, we all want them to tell him too. You got access to him. We stuck with him because he's the incumbent. We're going to vote for him because he's Democrat. And we know that that's all we got coming in 1980. So start telling them now what we want.
This panel heard what you had to say and will take due process to deliver the message to Mr. Carter, if he will see us.
I would like to ask you to go back to Washington and with your network that you have with the state legislators, that we begin to look at the educational problem that we have over the nation. You see, the student is getting the shaft. We need it incorporated into the curriculum of our schools, and we need legislation passed so that these school systems can't get out of putting brown history, black history, and these other things into our curriculum. And HISD is getting together, you understand, right now to say that everything is okay, when we still have resegregated schools that has been done recently this year, where they are busing blacks to blacks and still creating one-race schools here in this district. They're talking about competency tests. I think that you should go back and get legislation drafted where the colleges will have to be responsible for the people who go into the teaching profession, that they will have to pass certain tests so that the kids will not be penalized as they are now for trying to have to pass competency tests, which is a result for not having been taught. We need to put more pressure on our elected officials who's responsible for these things. And I can speak about the school board. There are several on there who got black pockets, Chicano pockets, who they would not have been elected. They had a beautiful opportunity to show that they represented all of the people in this district, but they turned it down. So they should I want to know what directions we're going to get from here that we can locally put pressure on these people so that we can get more votes in our favor.
Oh, let me go to Ms. Amado.
All right, I'm an educator, but I'm also a political activist. I try every chance I get to be sure that students get registered to vote. I am teaching in an inner city school, and yesterday I learned that the school in which I teach is number 27 is not eligible for Title I. Now, you people, and I'm talking about you college graduates, you need to get back into your community and help these young people become more politically active. It is sad to see the apathy that they will not register to vote. And they classify me as the old lady, but I still feel that our country and everything that's good about it needs to be acted on by everyone of all ages. And young people who aspire to become doctors, aspire to become engineers, remember where you got your education from. You need to get these young people to understand they need to finish high school. They need to stay in school. There's a lot of pushing out that we need young people to encourage them to stay in.
Let me go to the lady up here.
My name is Amanda Austin, and I'm new in Houston, actually. I've been here 4 years, and I think you must stay new here for about 30. I have a concern in terms of the apathy that I experience here, and in other states too, not just here, as I do some traveling. One of the things that stands out in my mind when I think of the apathy is the division between the Hispanics and the blacks, and the division between the young and the old. But the most stimulating thing that has happened to me since I've moved to Houston was to see the beginning efforts of our coming together. It doesn't really make me any difference if we resolve differences here today, but to at least admit that they exist and begin to look at them in a very realistic way, that until we stop referring to ourselves as minorities, and until we start seeing and certifying ourselves as very significant people and having accomplished a political victory in putting Carter in that White House in the first place, until we begin to feel the power of our people as a majority, we will never, never be able to respond to anything else for us. The other thing that I wanted to speak to is the age difference. And so frequently, we forget to listen to the older people in our community, and they are the people who have lived the history and have the experience of the age to at least share with us if we can open ourselves up enough to hear them. And the young ones are the ones who are going to carry tomorrow, because we're really not going to be here. And so it's vital that as this coalition forms, that there is a linkage between the young and the old, as well as the Hispanic and the black, and that we begin on some common note to move towards the future.
Thank you very much. Wally?
First, I wanted to say that there's an old cliche that says sometimes it's harder to unlearn than to learn. I like to disassociate myself with any line of thought that makes it appear that the brown population is somewhat responsible for the impotence and the sterility that black people are exhibiting in politics in Houston, Texas, because I know that the brown population is not responsible for that. I get very discouraged as I go around the city and you hear so much them Chicanos are getting everything. There are too many Chicanos at Texas Southern. If it's not Chicanos, blacks are talking about there are too many Iranians here. Because other people are organizing and flexing their political muscle, we think we the only oppressed people in North America. But there are other people who are catching hell and who are trying to remedy the problems that they have. We have an uneven rate of development between the black community and the brown community. It would be foolish to expect the brown community to have the same political consciousness at the same time in history that the black community has. It just does not happen like that. When we start talking about coalitions, I'm asking coalitions for what purpose? Coalitions for what purpose? Because previously we've seen that through coalitions, people have a lot of hidden agendas. They get a lot of people involved in coalitions, but it's only a select few that really benefit in terms of patronage jobs in this city through those coalitions that are being formed. I'm asking the question here, are we fighting to build a coalition to participate or to control? If we're talking about a coalition to control, we're talking about a new type of politics. We're talking about a politics of integrity. We're talking about a politics of uniting with those who unite with us and struggling against those who struggle against us. We're talking about a politics whereby we have no permanent friends, not any permanent enemies, but we always got permanent interests. That's the kind of politics that we have got to be talking about. So, I'm asking if we fighting a coalition to stay in that same bag, or which white liberal do we support? Which party do we support? We're going to lose the integrity, and we're also going to lose the support of the masses. That's why, in 1980, you're going to find out that fewer black people are going to go to the polls and vote, even though the objective conditions that we live under are worse, because we haven't developed enough wisdom to see that it's time for us to move in an independent political direction.
Officer Young.
I'd like very much to see most of you who are really interested in what we're doing. You see, this isn't A.V. Young's job. It isn't black people, Hispanic people's job. It isn't just white people's job. It's everybody's job to see that your law enforcement is supplying you with the necessary protection that you need instead of the brutality that we've been talking about down through the years.
Thank you, John. Gonzalo Barrientos, State Representative from Austin.
We could sit here, members of the Hispanic community and the black community, and point to individual incidents that many of us have had with a crazy black or a crazy Chicano or a crazy Cuban or what have you, that one of us did not like. Sure, why not? We're individuals, we're human beings. In 1945, when we lived outside of Bastrop, Texas, 5 miles, there was a 2-room schoolhouse for black children. Before I was old enough to go to school, I learned my English from those black children, and those black children learned Spanish from me. That is the essence of bilingual and multicultural education. I went to a segregated school. Many of us should learn each other's cultures and histories much better, ladies and gentlemen. The Mexican American of Texas could not go to an integrated school until after 1949, Delgado versus Bastrop Independent School District. There were 3 schools in my little city. 1 for Chicanos, 1 for blacks, and 1 for whites. It was with shame that I went to school several more years until the blacks were able to go to school with all of the children in that little town of Bastrop, Texas. Let us look to the commonalities that we have. Let us look to the special needs that the black people have and the Mexican American or the Hispanics of this country. Let us see that which is valuable in each other's cultures and history. Let us see, for example, that the Mexican American, la raza cósmica, is made up of all kind of individuals. Black people with kinky hair, blonde people with blue eyes, and brown Indian-looking people like me and Benny Reyes. Let us look to that, for example, in La Raza Cósmica, where we have a Jewish Christ, a white Virgin, la Virgen de Lourdes, and a black saint, San Martín de Porres. Let's put it together, mi raza. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, señora. Unidos venceremos.